A massive days-long earthquake swarm is still underway at Campi Flegrei, and local geologist Mario Tozzi is saying the Campi Flegrei, the burning fields, are our supervolcano. And instead of persuading people to leave, we have encouraged them to live there. We have continued to build. Does even half the population that lives there know what they have to do? And he's talking about at least 500,000 people in the direct red zone. And he says that supervolcano, Campi Flegrei, the truly dangerous one, more dangerous than Vesuvius, is the one that's susceptible to devastating activity. And we have 500,000 to 600,000 people living right on top of it. And he makes it clear. And if we look at this earthquake swarm and we see what's going on, and maybe you are a subscriber of my channel, you have seen all the recent videos I've done with all the studies that came out, and from study to study, it becomes a clearer picture. Run while you still can. He further says it is an underground cauldron full of boiling magma, and it is capable of unleashing explosive eruptions, theoretically devastating in the most catastrophic scenario that is not conceivable at the moment. Hopefully, although it is possible, we will have to talk about exodus, not evacuation. And he says, in any case, we're talking about 29 volcanoes and eruptive centers that have all been hidden. Campi Flegrei spans over 100 kilometers, multiple calderas. And he further says, well, if we look at the whole area at the aerial picture, only the Solfatara, where we see most of the epicenters of the earthquakes right now, where we see the fumaroles, and he says at the Astroni, still appear as volcanoes. All the other craters and volcanoes, every trace has been erased by houses, asphalt, and cement. Every memory has also been erased. People tend to forget very, very quickly. In 1538, a very respectable volcano was born in just a few days, Monte Nuovo. And he says, and instead of really being frightened enough from that volcano, we continue to treat the Campi Flegrei like any other territory. Rather than to persuade people to leave, we have encouraged them to come here. And we continue to build. And again, all these studies point out that it's very likely that we could already see a phreatic eruption. And everything points towards an episode that is similar, like it was before the Monte Nuovo eruption, before the Monte Nuovo crater was erupted. So everything looks the same. And Monte Nuovo was first a phreatic eruption that made way for a magmatic eruption later on. Let's have a list at the current earthquakes. They're happening right now. So we just had a 1.6 here, 1.0, 1.0. And these are only the ones that I show you in this list that are above 1. But we have way more microseismic earthquakes. But only those that we see here, they're big enough already. And you know, this is on the 9th of June, June 8th, 1.0, 1.0, 2.1, 1.3, 1.6 here. I'm only mentioning the larger one. 1.6 on the 7th. So this goes over multiple days. 1.9, 2.0, 1.0, 1.6, 2.5. And if you look at the time, it's only minutes away. Sometimes they had like several earthquakes in just 10 minutes. And then they kept coming on the 7th. And then on the 6th, a 3.2. And they kept coming on that day. And then on the 5th, we had another 2.8, a 2.0. And I even have to go to the next page here. And on the 5th, we had another 3.2 that was basically squeezed in here by a 2.3, 2.1 around that 3.2, just a few minutes apart. 2.3, 6:44, 3.2, 6:48, and then a 2.1 at 6:50. And then before that, just a few minutes, 1.0, few minutes before that, 2.1. So as you see here, right, it's absolutely crazy. And if we look at that swarm, it's basically now we're on June 4th, June 3rd. So it basically began on June 3rd and it's lasting into June 9th already. But also all the weeks before, we basically had it continuously rumbling. But now, during this swarm, we have several in the higher ranges, 2 or above 3, 3.2, and then several in the 2.5 ranges. And the last one, the 2.1, some have it in the 2.7 range even. And in light of that, we just have another study that just came out about the hidden layer that could blow the caldera. Doesn't that sound great? So, have you ever heard? I really have to ask that question. The Earth whisper warnings long before it screams? Well, is Campiflegris still whispering? That's my question. I don't think we're beyond the whispering stage here. So Campiflegris, that is Italy's massive caldera. It has been whispering basically for decades, and the whispers are getting stronger. It has shown us through this Brady seismic crisis that started in 2005 with land rise, escalating earthquakes, heated fumaroles, shallow earthquakes, right? These fumaroles, they steam like the volcano's breath, so to speak. One study after the other, the highest earthquakes measured there ever, several above magnitude 4, and now that brand new scientific discovery that has uncovered what could, again, be the most crucial piece of the puzzle, basically a hidden layer beneath the surface that may explain why Campiflegris is so dangerously restless. And more importantly, why it might be closer to erupting than many had hoped. But many scientists are warning about this, have been warning about this since 2018, but the officials, they don't seem to listen. So now let's have a look what the scientists found and why that matters, and I believe this is alarming, I really do. We'll talk about phreatic eruptions because that's what they think, what all these studies think has the highest risk right now to happen. Like Tuff rock, gas traps, and how seemingly small signs could unleash something catastrophic. Because we have to make it clear, deep beneath Naples and Pozzuoli, a region with more than 6 million people, lies one of the most dangerous volcanoes on Earth. And Campiflegris is not a single mountain like Vesuvius, the stratovolcano. It's a massive collapsed crater, a caldera measuring multiple miles wide, created by one of the most powerful eruptions in Europe's history. And right now it's not quiet, it's not normal. In fact, already since the 1950s, the ground in parts of the caldera has been risen over like 5 feet, 1.5 meters. Earthquake swarms have rocked the region again and again, including a powerful swarm in 2023, again in spring 2024, and then this year in February. Oh my God, was this powerful and bad and long. So something is happening below the surface, but until now, we really didn't fully understand the mechanics. Now we do even more with this study. So a team of Italian and international scientists have revealed what they believe is the engine behind all this unrest called bradyseism, the ground swelling and the seismic restlessness. At a depth of about 3 to 4 kilometers, they discovered a hidden layer of weak, porous rock, specifically a type of compressed volcanic ash known as tuff. And this tuff isn't just a rock. It has been altered and weakened by centuries of magma intrusions. It's like a sponge. It's fractured, it's gas permeable, and it's structurally unstable. And is that the stuff that keeps the lid on a supervolcano? That's the question. So this gas trapping layer acts as a buffer zone. And do you remember when the head of the civil defense recently said we're running out of buffer between us and the supervolcano? So this buffer zone catches the volcanic gases that rise from the magma chamber below. Smaller chamber at between 3 and 4 kilometers of depth, and another one at roughly 8 kilometers of depth. And here's the critical part: over time, this tough layer becomes saturated with gas because it is like a sponge. And that gas creates overpressure. And when that pressure builds too much, the rocks fracture, they shift and they deform. And that's when the earthquakes start. So that's what's happening. So the lead author of the study explains, quote, "This layer explains why the volcano is restless, and that may be the key to understanding its long-term behavior." And it's not just a local issue. The authors suggest that similar layers may exist beneath other major calderas around the world, such as Yellowstone in the US or Rabaul in Papua New Guinea. But Campi Flegrei is different in one important way. And that is over 500,000 people live directly on top, or let's say inside of the caldera, the most densely populated caldera. This is not an isolated area far away from civilization. So now I want to tell you more about what this tuff layer is, where it comes from, and why it could be the volcano's greatest weakness and the greatest threat. You know, tuff is formed when volcanic ash from explosive eruptions is compressed together over time into a somewhat solid rock. And it often still contains gas bubbles, glassy fragments, and crystals from the eruption. And at Campi Flegrei, this tuff layer was likely created by the massive, they call it Ignimbrite Campania eruption nearly 40,000 years ago. That same eruption that helped form the caldera itself. And then over thousands of years, magma repeatedly has intruded into this layer, but it didn't always break through. Instead, the heat and the gas from below slowly altered this tuff, making it more porous and mechanically weak. So it's like a cracked lid sealing a pressure cooker. If that lid is cracked, it will explode eventually. And I want to make clear, this is not a speculation. It's confirmed through borehole samples, seismic data, and computer modeling in this new study. We do know that this layer is there. We know it's deforming, and we know it's holding in gas. So the elephant in the room is what happens if that gas finds a way out. This is where it gets serious, guys. So before a magmatic eruption where lava, ash, and pyroclastic flows burst through the surface, a volcano can release its pressure through phreatic eruptions. And Campi Flegrei did so in the past. So phreatic eruptions are violent, steam-driven explosions they cause when superheated groundwater or gas blast through the overlying rock. No new magma is involved at first, just pressure and steam, which is bad enough already, guys. They're unpredictable, often unaccompanied by strong seismic signals. You don't know they're coming. And they're extremely, extremely dangerous. Remember White Island. So if that happens here in Campi Flegrei, in this densely populated area, if a phreatic eruption, which many scientists think is likely right now, if that happens suddenly, if this suddenly cracks open the tuff layer, it could act as a gateway to the deeper magma reservoir. It could form a highway. Like a miner, it's digging the flow path. And in that case, magma could begin to rise. And this isn't theoretical. Again, this is exactly how the 1538 eruption of Monte Nuovo began. So when people are saying, well, yeah, right now the risk is only we could see a phreatic eruption. Yeah, at first, which is already bad enough. But then comes the disaster. So, Monte Nuovo, first there was ground uplift and steam emissions, and then after several days, boom! A magmatic eruption created a new mountain, almost overnight. And here's the risk, guys. The more pressure that builds in this gas-bearing layer, the more likely it is to fail. And if it fails abruptly, the consequences could be catastrophic. And I quote Giuseppe Di Natale, former head of the INGV's Vesuvius Observatory. He's been monitoring and still is this thing day and night. He says Campi Flegrei is not a dormant volcano. The pressure is increasing. You have to understand that. And another volcanologist, Christopher Kilburn, who has studied Campi Flegrei also for decades, he says the current crisis could last years, and is already lasting years, but the risk is cumulative. It's increasing. The more these episodes occur, the more the crust weakens. I mean, it's clear. All these earthquakes make it even more brittle than the gas already does. But despite these warnings, guys, I think there's a painful truth. We might not know exactly when it will erupt until it's too late. I think that's where we're heading here in Italy. And this is because phreatic eruptions give little to no warning. Seismic swarms may not always indicate magma movement. The tuff layer itself, it's complex. Its behavior changes based on gas content, water interaction, and stress fractures. Magma ascent can happen in days once the right path opens. And that's what also the authors of the study admitted. The challenge now is to model how close the system is right now to failure. But we may be reaching the limit of what we can detect before an eruption starts. Let that sink in. That is scary. So what's the takeaway? This new discovery is not just another academic paper that we're like, yeah, reads nice, next. It's a breakthrough in understanding why Campi Flegrei is behaving the way it is. And it's so crucial that we understand more. And every new study tells us, you better get out of there. The tuff layer is the missing link. It's like the bridge between deep magma and the surface unrest. It's a natural sponge filling with pressure. It's a ticking time bomb, a ticking clock. If it fractures, we might see a chain reaction. And they're the most dangerous. We've just seen a chain reaction in Blatten in Switzerland with that landslide. If you haven't seen that, guys, you have to see it. Go to my Blatten playlist. Watch it from day one. So here, if the tuff layer fractures, the chain reaction will be first gas escapes explosively. Then the ground collapses, and then magma follows. We've seen this pattern in Japan, in Indonesia, even at Mount St. Helens in 1980. So the science is now clear. Campi Flegrei has the right setup for a staged eruption. And let me be clear, this doesn't mean we will see an eruption tomorrow, but it does mean that we've run out of excuses for ignoring the science. It also means that any phreatic event in the near future should be taken seriously, and I think they will, because it will be right in this densely populated area. So it's not just an isolated explosion. It has a potential to breach the system. So what happens next depends on three things. How much gas builds up in that tuff layer, whether water interacts with it to trigger a steam explosion. How prepared are we when the system finally fails? How prepared can you be with all the people still living on top of it? My personal view, guys, is this discovery alarms me. Again, after each study, I'm like, oh my God, these poor people in Italy. I know the situation is difficult. Should you move like whole Naples? But scientists are begging, Mastro Lorenzo, please at least move Pozzuoli and move the tiny red zone inside the other red zone. He's not even saying move 500,000 people, although I think they should. So this discovery alarms me not because it guarantees an eruption, but because it explains how the system could suddenly change without a warning. It confirms what many scientists have feared for years. It gives us a better map, but the road ahead might still be very short. So if you're in Naples or Pozzuoli or just watching from afar, remember, the silence before an eruption isn't calm. It's compression. and we know exactly where the pressure is hiding. So guys, if you like this video, leave it a like, share it with your friends, especially the ones that live in Italy or want to go to Italy. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee on my buymeacoffee.com/silky site. Leave me a message with the coffee and I will answer you back with a 30-second video message. That's what the system allows. And then you can video me back and we can actually see each other. I really like that. It's really cool. So link is in the description of this video. And if you want to join the channel with a membership, exclusive videos, click the join button or the link in the description. Thank you for your supers. Shout out to all my members. You're great. And I hope to see you, all of you, my viewers. Welcome to the new subscribers and the wannabes. Check out my videos in the end screen. Maybe that will convince you. So a lot of things are going on. So that's why. Be on the pulse with me. I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.